My name is F. Richard Hurley. I'm an attorney. I'm a deacon of a church, and I'm also a professor at Medgar Evers College. And that's what I do. I practice criminal law, and I enjoy what I do. Well, actually, my father was a lawyer, and with his inspiration and me wanting to be like my father, I found myself following his footsteps. That's what got me into law in the first place, just wanting to be like my father. Well, actually, I was an A student naturally until I got to law school. That's when I met other A students, and I struggled in law school because I would like to say that being the only black person in the classroom was a challenge. When I got into law school, the first day of class, it's a funny story, the first day of class, I didn't have the book yet because I wasn't accepted into Brooklyn Law School until August, and class started late August. So I went to the class. Not only did the white students have the book already, they had the book since April, and they read the book. One of the requirements was to read the book before the beginning of the semester. I just got the book in September, so I played catch-up. The very first semester I was in law school, I played catch-up. And on top of that, I became a father. Well, playing catch-up did make me work harder. My son was born November 13th during that same semester, so it was really a challenge. But I made it through that. I made it through it. I've always had a habit of working hard. Ever since high school, I've always went to summer school by choice, never because I had to, but by choice. When I was in college, I went to summer school. So I was used to hard working. I just wanted to be a lawyer, and I wanted to get the education out the way. I looked at education as a business. I didn't look at it like most people would look at it, just for the academic piece. But I looked at it as a business. I had to get through law school to become a lawyer, and I needed some way to support my family. So it was very important to me to graduate and get the law schooling out the way. My formula for success in anything you do, not just law school, is hard work. It's simply hard work. I was raised by a former sharecropper. My grandmother, she picked cotton in South Carolina. She raised me, and what she did is instill in me hard work. And I believe, I tell my students this all the time, no one is necessarily smarter than the other. There's always that mental gameplay where you try to make yourself seem smarter than everybody else. It's not true. It's who works the hardest. It's the same thing in sports. Even Michael Jordan had to practice his shots, and Kobe Bryant. Even in sports, the harder you work, the more success you'll experience. So it's just that simple. Those who don't succeed did not work hard enough. Everyone can succeed. I believe that in my heart. I don't care how slow you may learn or how slow you may pick up a thing, but if you work hard at it, you can achieve it. I felt intimidated many times. I questioned myself and second-guessed myself many times. I've done that in high school. I've done that in college. I've even done that in law school. But I can tell you, when I wanted to give up while in law school, it was my wife, my sister, who's not here with me today, who really inspired me to keep going. I mean, just to keep going. And so I worked harder. Just worked harder. When I started law school, I wasn't the only black. There was several of us. There's about almost not 10, but around 8, and not all of us made it. Why? Because of the sacrifice. We had jobs. We were going to law school at night, after all. So people were working all day. People were married. There was divorces that occurred while in law school, even with the white students. This applies to everyone across the board, what I'm saying, in terms of working hard. So as far as the black students are concerned, the sacrifice is tremendous. People sacrifice their relationships. They had to sacrifice being a good father or a good mother. You sacrifice having a good time. You don't go out. In fact, when I went to law school, I worked 9 to 5 in Manhattan at Corp Counsel, and I walked across the bridge over to Brooklyn Law School. And I went to law school. My last class was over around 11:30 at night. So I would study in the library until the library would close. I would get home like 1 in the morning, and I would start that again all over again at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'd get up and get to work by 9. So my day was full, and it was 24 hours, 7 days a week. So you have to put your heart into it. You have to really want it. You have to want it bad. So, and I believe that anything you want, if you want it bad enough, you can achieve it. I'm a criminal lawyer. I teach criminal law at Medgar College. I practice criminal law. I started out in the DA's office in Queens. And so being a black man in America, I figured that what a better subject in law to study other than criminal law. They arrest us, as you know, and Michelle Alexander's book, The New Jim Crow, with mass incarceration. We were targeted. Sometime I was a young boy. You watch out for the police. You are a target. Whether you're guilty or not, or you did a crime or not, they're looking to arrest you. And it's very true. So when I went to law school, it just made sense to study criminal law so that way I could protect myself. The more I knew, the more I was armed with my protection. I was stopped by the police one time jogging in Prospect Park. And I got as far as Flatbush, and well, it wasn't Flatbush, but it was Ocean Parkway and Parkside. And I was breathing heavy, so I was kneeling down, and all of a sudden the cop stops. And a young white short cop ran up on me and started to approach me very aggressively and was beginning to try to put his hands in my pocket. And just out of instincts, I smacked his hands as hard as I could. And I smacked his hands as hard as I could again and again. And then the black cop that was in the car that he pulled up, I knew they were cops, drew his gun on me. And I then put my hands in the air, and I simply said, said, can I get my ID? The black cop said, if you move, I'm going to shoot you. So that was stupid of me. I called several judges, that night after. But when a girl came out of the car and said, no, that's not him. So they all jumped in the car and shot off. And from that point on, I understood what women must go through when they feel violated, or just a victim violated. I felt so violated, and I never had that feeling before. It's such a violation, and so when cops stop you, they control the streets. You just cooperate. You have to give them your pedigree. That's as far as you go. But the first thing you say to a cop is, am I under arrest? If I'm not, I go. If you are under arrest, you want your lawyer. Even if you're not under arrest at times, you ask for a lawyer so it could stop all the questioning, all the aggressiveness, because some of these cops are just trying to do their job. I understand it. But the way they do it and the fashion in which they do it, it can violate a lot of your rights. So what I say is ask for your attorney, say as little as possible, and cooperate as much as possible. Well, the questions that you do answer are the pedigree, your name, your address, where you live. Anything that's pedigree information is part of their job. They probably want to know what's going on because they may be investigating a call, or so you don't want to not cooperate with the police at all. But from a practical point of view, know when you're a suspect and when you're a witness, and cooperate accordingly. But again, I can't emphasize more, your lawyer's number should be on speed dial. If you look at our history, from the time the first African set his foot on this soil, we were never intended to be citizens. the laws that were written, the Constitution, everything about this country was about, had something to do with us African Americans, and we were never intended to be citizens. So, when slavery was over, one of the things that occurred was they figured out, well, if we arrest all of them, we arrest all the men, the black men, the brown men, that's one way of stripping them of their citizenship. And they did a very good job of it. I'm proud of this book. First of all, this book was inspired by my students here at McEvers College. Today's student, let's say today's people in society, their attention span is minimum, because you press Google and you have the world at your feet. You have all the information you want. So attention span is minimum. So what I embarked on doing was write a book where the students would actually read it from cover to cover. It's 62 pages, and it brings you from 1619 to 2019. It tells you the 400 years the first African stepped foot on this soil, and it has everything in it. But let me give an example. It's a timeline, and I talk about Willie Lynch from the 1712, the Willie Lynch letter. I may put 3 sentences. I put 3 sentences, something like that, in this book. I can give a 2.5-hour lecture about that. So the book is a perfect timeline. You get everything in the book from cover to cover. Is catered to the students, and the book is doing just what I wanted to do. Sure. Well, first of all, the easy way to contact me is through my number, which is 917-297-9429. And my office is right across the street from the Old World Trade Center at 30 Vesey Street. I'm on the 15th floor. We have the entire 15th floor. We have a team of attorneys that can satisfy you with any need that you have, particularly criminal law and accident cases, medical malpractice cases, personal injury cases, cases like that. But that's where I'm at. I always use the Old World Trade Center because they call it Freedom Tower, but for my world, there's nothing free yet. You know, we're still slaves to a certain point. You can go to my website and see where to get it, or you can go to my Facebook page and scroll down and get it at F. Richard Hurley. That's my Facebook page. At Lulu. Lulu is my publicist. My grandchildren, naturally. I'm a family man. I believe strongly in my family. I believe strongly in the male image in the family. My father died in a car accident when I did shoot 2 days before my 10th birthday. So for me, it was very important to be a good father, and now I'm a grandfather and a good grandfather. And quite frankly, that's what it's really about for men and for women. But I just say that the strongest inspiration for me are my grandchildren. So what's up, the Hurley babies?
Rainbow Car Service, Mr. Printer, Borda Beta Tonic.